Well, Pawan, happy to meet you here. Otherwise, we typically meet in Gift City right now their old office. So just so that all of us know, when we saw Pradeep ji's presentation, there was a picture of a wonderful building, right? That's the building, or that's going to be the home for the regulator very soon. How soon, Pawan ji? When do you move there?
So probably early next month.
Okay, got it. So I think my first question is actually getting to there, because I think it's all part of a great vision. As I said, right from 2016-19, we have been witnessing that grandness of vision. So maybe, Pawanji, the first thing that we can start with is that what's the, what makes you keep going on these reforms? So maybe we can start with the long-term vision in terms of how do you want to make this, as I would say, India's the most premier financial center, and obviously in that process, we will certainly compete and equate with something like a Singapore or other financial centers. So what's the vision of the authority?
Sure. Thank you so much for that question and laying the background in terms of what is the larger vision, as in why do we exist foremost, right? For years together, lot of India-bound investments would typically used to take place out of various other financial centers. And because of our own set of regulations, our need to protect small retail investors, which may not be conducive to large global investors, many of these activities were taking place in some of the overseas jurisdictions. And because of all of it, India used to lose out on economic activities, the employment opportunities, limited oversight, and we have had multiple cases where Indian regulators wanted to have some oversight, but because some of these activities were carried out, a complete oversight was also not there. So why should we as a country lose out when most of these investments are to be channeled into India? So it was a very noble thought process by the then Chief Minister of India, who is now the Prime Minister of India. Why should all these things go offshore? Why can't we onshore it? It was with this simple idea, vision, with which Gift City was envisaged. And when we look at especially the wealth management space again, so as compared to many of these financial centers, if you look at, so those centers generally exist only to move money from one place to the other place by and large. But if you look at many of these centers, they themselves are not large economies otherwise, right? That way, India as Gift City, we have a natural hinterland advantage, as I would put in, right? We are backed by a very large domestic economy, which is one of the largest and the fastest moving economy. And while we are all happy with having those conversations by the domestic institutions supporting when FIIs exist, but at the same point of time, let's accept the fact that we are still a capital-starved nation. Lot of enterprises are there in India which needs lot of capital. Some of it is a greater risk capital, and some of that appetite lies outside of India as well. So if we were to attract all of them, we need such a global financial center, and that's our whole motto, as in how do we bring in a lot of capital to support Indian entrepreneurs. If our Prime Minister has laid out a vision of a Viksit Bharat by 2047, we need a lot of corporates who will be global champions. For them to be global champions, they need to have access to capital, and that access has to be at a lower cost of capital as well. Again, we are seeing what best we could do to support this vision. At the same point of time, it's not only a one-way traffic, right? Just to do justice to the topic as well, right? We are also mindful of the fact that over the last 5 to 10 years especially, lot of Indian families have made wealth out of India and other places, be it out of business, out of markets, in other areas. And most of their exposure has always been into India. And now with this increasing wealth, they are also looking at opportunities to invest outside. So far, if they were relying on certain platforms which were not regulated, they were investing in markets where they would not have any direct oversight. Can we offer an access which is regulated by an Indian regulator? The entities which are offering this access are also regulated by the regulator. And then this entire activity happens in a well-regulated space to give good exposure to overseas market. So that's the other piece in terms of the larger cross-border vision. And towards this vision, happy to share that while we started with a lot of Indian asset managers setting up their shop in Gift City to bring global capital to invest into India, last 1.5 year has all been about not just Indian asset managers, but global asset managers setting up their offices in GIFT to pool Indian capital and give them the opportunities to invest into US markets, European markets, Korea, Hong Kong, and several other places. Separately, in last 6 months, the other trend which we are witnessing is, apart from the Indian market connect, in fact, be it on the investor or investment side, we are seeing a lot of global asset managers which are setting up their offices and pulling in money from global markets, and the money is also being deployed in global markets. And there is little India angle to it. So a complete that way, I would
So
say.
I would say three elements. One is the money that comes from outside into inside, money from inside that goes outside, and nothing to do with India, but because GIFT's now becoming attractive in terms of making commercial sense to global managers, they're saying that, okay, I just want to establish presence in GIFT City and I can do any business, right? It need not be necessarily inward looking into India, but I can manage some global business out of, for example, the global capability centers. I think
Absolutely. So just in terms of larger set of activities, and just for the benefit of all the audience, IFSCA, whom I represent today, is the unified regulator for the GIFT IFSC, which is the International Financial Service Centers. We don't just regulate the capital markets, we also regulate banking, insurance, pension funds in GIFT City. In addition to this 4 financial sector areas, there are certain other additional responsibilities which Government of India is vested on us. So be it foreign universities which intend to set up their university campuses in GIFT, aircraft leasing, ship leasing for years together. Again, very good success story. India is one of the largest consumers of the aircrafts. We are the second fastest moving aviation industry. Most of the aircrafts are leased out of Dublin, Ireland. Again, GIFT has given them an opportunity to be there onshore. So rightly pointed out,
Absolutely.
it's not only one thing bringing money inside. It's quite a wide story.
Absolutely. I think one point which is also very relevant for the audience here, because the unified nature of the regulator, I think as a regulated corporations or even for investors, there is one-stop shop. So essentially the payments are regulated by you, the securities market is regulated by you. So if in case anything has to be looked unified in a unified manner, there is no multiplicity of regulators, situations and issues get resolved very quickly. I think from a wealth management perspective, I think it is important. It's a distinction that I think we should make to the investors, saying that it's one single regulator rather than you go into RBI, IRDA, because right now the products, everything involves payments, right? So essentially there is one single regulator which takes care of the whole ecosystem. I think that brings us to slightly to a second point actually. When you mention the global managers also using India as attracting Indian capital which they want to take back. The second point was, the Indians also using the LRS and other OPI means to make those investments. Now, because essentially we are also seeing some geopolitical and our own capital account current, issues. Some of the question is about the whole LRS and the OPI piece. I think how the Indian investors, according to you, as well as the global institutions, see this LRS and OPI flourishing in future?
Sure. So, see, the very reason for the existence of GIFT is India being a country which is not fully capital convertible, right? There was a need which was felt where there is a jurisdiction wherein at least when money flows from outside, goes outside, there are no capital controls in place. So just again for the benefit of the audience, from the perspective of FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, the entities in GIFT are outside of capital control. Just again a small clarification, when money moves from India to GIFT, there will be capital controls. But any money which is already in GIFT from outside, there are no capital controls which exist. Coming specifically to LRS, OPI limits, and which would also be important to the clients of some of you. So again, if you look at many of the countries worldwide, and especially the developing countries, while often it is felt that the LRS limits are lesser in India, sometimes we have been party to those conversations. In fact, some of you would have also represented to us that can GIFT get an extra limit? Can we have an increase in limit? We did some comparison. We were just looking at, and most of the other developing countries, in fact, India, that way, the LRS limit are way higher as compared to some of the other countries
I agree.
we have seen. And essentially, when you are looking at a family of 4, essentially you are saying in a year you can take out $1 million.
That's a large amount, yeah.
So
1 million.
year after year, it's a great opportunity to build a large portfolio. Having said that, the other exclusive advantage with GIFT City is, which no other financial center or any other geography outside of India does not enjoy, is Government of India and RBI have under the overseas investment rules have permitted Indian residents as part of their investments into funds in IFSC, not just by listed entities, even by any unlisted entities. 50% of the net worth can also be remitted as part of overseas portfolio investment. So again, we understand, appreciate the fact that for large families, the money vests in certain institutions and the individuals may not be remitting.
Yes.
So again, that route is exclusively available through GIFT City. So again, I would see that because of some of this flexibilities, rather than putting it as constraints, people are setting up their operations in GIFT and able to get money through LRS and OPI route out of IFS, out of India.
Sure. So that leads us to the third question. I think it's a question divided into two. One, obviously, I think fair bit of the scale part, I think, Pawanji, you have covered in terms of, but maybe we can spend a minute about how have you seen these entities scaling up, the fund management entities. And then let's come to the wealth distributors, wealth managers or mutual fund distributors or fund distributors, that ecosystem thriving in the GIFT City. Let's spend some time on that and then we go on to the retail distribution part.
Sure. So just in terms of the overall fund management ecosystem, so as we speak, we have got about 300 alternative investment funds. Last time when I interacted with the audience, with some of you, in fact, we did not have a single retail scheme because there was no tax treatment which was available for a retail scheme. Thankfully, we got it as part of the budget announcement a year back. Notifications took place, and again in last 8 to 9 months, we have seen about 8 to 9 retail schemes which have already gone live. So that's another pool which is now over a period of time which will continue to expand and increase and give more opportunities. In a quarter, you pick up any metric in the fund management space. I'm just talking about the quarterly numbers, and we have seen it across 8 to 9 quarters now, be it in terms of number of fund managers, number of funds, number of money actually pulled in. Every quarter, we see a growth about 30 to 40%.
Wow.
So in a year, be it in terms of AUM, number of entities, number of funds, we are essentially doubling or we are being triple our previous size. As we speak, the money which is pulled every quarter in a GIFT is north to $3 to $5 billion. So essentially, we are looking at a number about 30,000 crores which are pulled and invested into more than 25 different jurisdictions. So that's the scale. It's while on an absolute level, it's still we have just started, I would say, but the growth has been pretty fast, I would say, and we have all types of funds investing into listed securities, unlisted securities, different markets, equity funds, debt funds. So all those opportunities are there. Specifically for distributors, again, if we look at this piece, for years together at least, and if we have to draw a comparison with domestic India, the wealth managers were not directly regulated by an Indian regulator.
Right.
And it goes through an industry association. And we at GIFT City saw the wealth managers being an important constituent which takes the product from the product manufacturer to the end investor. And unlike the domestic India, what we have is we have a guideline to regulate the distributors. We treat them as capital market intermediaries. As we speak, we have got about 20 distributors who have set up their operations in GIFT actually. And in addition to the 20 distributors who have set up their offices in GIFT, and this set of distributors can do a host of things. If we have time, we can discuss that. Other than that, it's not that to distribute GIFT products, you have to be in GIFT.
Sure.
What we have also enabled is distributors from world over can engage with the fund management entities which are there in GIFT. They can take their products to their clients. The only thing which is required is for the distributors to comply with the code of conduct which we have specified.
Absolutely.
And for the fund management entity, or as you call them as AMC in the domestic India, they need to ensure that the code of conduct is complied with.
Absolutely. So I think one point I would like to highlight here, because we saw the development of this whole distribution ecosystem also over 23 to 26. They started with a circular in terms of making sure that the gift products are distributed also within India, but regulator was very, very clear that the code of conduct remains the most important from a conduct perspective, from a fitment when a product is solicited to an investor in India. So I'll probably go to the last question about how the retail opportunity now is shaped up for 9 funds that have come up in the I think a span of 1 year. With that in mind and the distribution ecosystem, how do you see now that developing over the next 1 year or so?
It's growing very, very fast actually. The first retail fund which went live in a first quarter itself. And again, when we are talking about retail schemes, let's be conscious of the fact these are not the typical Indian mutual fund size SIP of INR 300 or 500. Even a retail scheme in IFSC will have a minimum ticket size of 1,000, 2,000 or a 5,000 USD.
$5,000.
Even, yeah. And I'm talking about a scheme which had a minimum ticket size of 5,000 USD. In the first quarter itself, with lot of difficulties with LRS, still building up those pipelines and all, they had more than 1,000 clients.
Wow.
And they could engage with lot of Indian distributors as well. A lot of them were pushing this opportunity. And as we all know, at least there is an appetite. Everybody wants to have a global exposure. Again, with the cap of $7 billion being exhausted, people are looking for opportunities. As soon as that opportunity was made available, entities could speak to the right set of investors. They could remit money. And so that pipeline is also building up well. We are seeing more and more retail schemes being filed. And at least on the retail side, while on the alternative side, it is more inward looking. On the retail side, at least the initial trend is more outward looking, where people want to give more and more opportunities to the Indian investors to have that global exposure. Let me also take a moment, and since we may not have time to address the audience questions, and this is my 4th or 5th address to the wealth managers in last couple of months. And one question which comes every time whenever there is an audience interaction is the difficulties in onboarding the Indian investors, the KYC piece, especially if some of you have again foreign nationals or NRIs as your clients. Again, there are challenges. The difficulties in remitting money by way of LRS. So some of those challenges are have been highlighted to us as well. So let me tell you, at least on the Indian side, while we have built a wonderful stack in India, which is backed by Aadhaar, UPI, lot of digital infrastructure has been built over a period of 2 decades. We have just started. It has been only 3 years since our regulations itself were notified.
Yes.
Right. So we are well aware of some of these problems. First and foremost, let me accept it. We are aware of some of those problems and we are trying to solve. The biggest thing which we have solved in last 6 months, which at least it has not been solved otherwise by the domestic regulators, for your NRIs, a video-based KYC for onboarding has already been enabled out of GIFT City. Even for payment, at least some of the asset managers were investing into infra. And let me also tell you, it is not always with regulations. Sometimes the asset management companies or other participants in the ecosystem, they need to invest into the infrastructure, which can support a seamless digital journey. But happy to see that at least out of the 8-9 retail schemes, I have personally checked 3 and 4 retail schemes where the entire journey is digital.
Absolutely.
From client onboarding to payment. Absolutely, It was a 3-minute journey, which we ourselves tested actually. Whereas it was not a regulator's job, but just in terms of ease of doing. So where people are actually inclined to invest into technologies, solve those challenges, those are getting addressed. And the last piece, we are also working actively to enable digital onboarding, not just for NRIs now, but even for other foreign nationals and overseas citizens of India.
So, no, thank you, Pavanji. Wonderful session, and I think the retail schemes are just taking off. So, I think it's up to us. How do we scale this up? Thank you.